Hello, and welcome to 100% Real with Ruby. Today is a mini-sode on the most voted topic on my Instagram stories, and one that I honestly see most of you struggling with, and that's building muscle is so much harder, so much more challenging than just simply losing weight. Yeah, because gaining muscle, turning up, getting lean, while there's so much hype around the summer shred, around getting the bikini body, no one talks about the actual grind to build a muscular body. Well, a femininely muscular, athletic looking body. It's not a quick diet hack, and just cutting calories isn't going to get you that leaner look. It takes a whole other level of dedication, whole other approach, and you honestly need so much more strategy for it. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in this episode. I'm going to dig into why it's tougher, why and how it's different from weight loss, and what mindset and approach needs to be considered when you are tackling this so-called challenge. Because if you're over 35 and you've never spent one solid year focused on building muscle, think about this. After 30, you start losing 1% of muscle per year. That's 10% of muscle per decade. That's if you're not actively working to maintain it. And that's kind of what lifting does. Like, if you're lifting weights, that doesn't mean that you're building muscle. That's enough to maintain it, unless you have a specific strategy to then make sure that you're forcing change to build the muscle, which is where a lot of people kind of get it wrong. And this is why building muscle is so much harder. And getting lean or toned is the result of revealing the muscle that you built in that phase. No amount of fat loss or dieting is going to change that. So if you've never built the muscle, getting lean isn't going to get you that strong look that you want. And I think that's the hardest part, because we don't know what's on the other side of our actions. And when those actions are telling you to get out of a calorie deficit, to eat more food, to stop focusing on fat loss for a good year or so, it's scary. Anyway, let's dig into this. So the real challenge compared to weight loss is, I guess social media can be blamed for this, because when people think about getting fit, they usually think about slimming down, toning up, fitting back into old jeans, but the body that they're envisioning is this lean, defined look. And then you look on Instagram, you look in the gym, and you're seeing these leaner bodies. You think they look smaller than what you are now. You think they look leaner than what you are now. So it's kind of like the obvious in our head is, okay, we need to like cut carbs or just do more training, do more cardio, do more HIIT, do more something that's going to get us to that leaner, harder look. And I'm saying that because that is the thought process that had me falling into that trap over and over again. And I know that many clients, when they came to me, said that that's what they were doing all those times before. And one particular client who's seeing the most success right now, she had a coach before, and it was more like a trainer that just gave into what she said, that she never challenged my client when my client was getting uncomfortable with eating more food. So they did a couple of builds, quote unquote, but they never lasted long because my client was never comfortable, and then she'd want to go back into the diet. And I challenged my client every single time, and she challenged me so many times, and I've just put her in a place and I explained it to her. She did the work. And that's the hardest part, that work you need to do to get there. She did the work to force herself into a surplus. She had to upsize her clothes a good, I think, 3 times. But she came from an extremely under-muscled, skinny, fat look. And that's what it requires for her starting point. And we all have different starting points, and that's where you need your own coach to guide you. But I'm going to try to break it down so that you can have some actionable takeaways from this. Because ab workouts and endless runnings they just don't make it here. So first things first, when we're talking about losing weight, we're usually talking about a calorie deficit. Eat fewer calories than you burn, and over time you'll see the scale go down. Is that fat? Who knows? Is that muscle? Who knows? Sometimes it is. Cutting calories is like the mainstream default approach, main thing now, because it's straightforward. If you want to lose weight, eat less. Building muscle is a different story. Building muscle isn't just about hitting the gym or lifting weights from A to B. You need the consistency there. You need the intensity there. You need effective programming with effective sets and effective reps. If you have a coach, please film yourself and send those to your coach. Something I think is highly valuable, which I wish everyone did, is when you have a new program, spend the first 2 weeks picking a couple of exercises from every single day and filming those, and then film different ones the next week, just so your coach can see how you're lifting those weights and if you're doing those exercises properly. Then once you've pretty much learnt those exercises, then you don't need to film them as much anymore. That is usually the biggest thing that holds a lot of people back, but there are different things that you can also see in those videos, such as the last couple of reps. I thought I was actually pushing myself really hard, but the speed of those reps actually looked the same. They didn't slow down. Whereas if the last couple of reps, you're seeing yourself shake, you're seeing yourself almost fail the last rep, maybe even taking 3 times as long to complete it, like 10 seconds of a rep, exaggerating, but I've been there, done that many times, and that kind of works, like if you actually aim for that. Or even half reps, because you're grinding it so hard and you just literally fail the rep. That's what we want with intensity. It doesn't have to be every single session, but most of the time. You also need to be eating enough, not just protein, but enough carbs as well. Enough calories. Some people can do it in high end of maintenance, but once you've been doing it in high end of maintenance for a while, you might actually need to bump it up to a slight surplus. It's just that most people think that you need a bigger surplus than what you actually need, or when there's no diet attached, when there's no fat loss attached, they're not as precise or as mindful or as accountable to their nutrition as they were in a fat loss phase. They don't take the nutrition element as seriously, which I think is a huge detriment. Sadly, the most common one. I've had clients admit that as well, saying, I definitely feel like I'm a lot more focused and a lot more on my mark when I'm in a fat loss phase and when there's a diet attached. I realize that now, quoted from a client. But that is usually why a lot of people don't see the muscle building that they want. And we can feel so fluffy in the process, but it's not an accurate representation of what's going on. Like, it happens many times, especially when it's summer, because you're hot and you're bothered and you feel puffy because you're holding more water, because it's hot, because your body's trying to cool down. So it's holding more and more water than usual as well. And then there's period weeks, and then there's PMS weeks. We as women, we're flooded with all of this emotional somatic stuff in amongst social media and marketing and magazines and all this stuff being pummeled at us. And then our history, dieting regimen, we have so many odds against us. No wonder we struggle. And this is why I should be able to do this on my own. Like, I'm a coach. Even I can't see myself objectively. And I don't want to have to see myself objectively. I don't want to have to second guess things. I want someone to call the shots for me so I can get my way there. It's the hardest part of all of this. Losing weight, you see faster progress and it's motivating. Instant gratification that it's working. But when you're building muscle, you don't have the instant gratification that it's working. You don't have that instant feedback loop. It's slow and you're not going to see drastic changes overnight, not in a week, not in a month. It's slow. And you can't force the muscle building process faster, because that is when you gain more fat than you should be gaining. And I'm not a bulk and cut coach. I'm a let's build. Let's get you into a high end of maintenance and then start feeding you into a slight surplus so that we can see results, and we can always pull you out of a slight surplus and put you into a maintenance phase. I put most of my clients into maintenance phases for quite a while until we build up their training capacity. A lot of them can see massive changes in maintenance if they push themselves in their training sessions. And then when I feel like there's a bottleneck on their progress in the gym, bottleneck on their performance, bottleneck in all these areas, that's when I then start to push a slight surplus. I am not someone that just freely puts people into a slight surplus, because it's just the same as a deficit. You don't just put yourself into these 2 phases that are outside of the norm. Like maintenance, so like that's where most progress happens, and then graduating into the slight surplus. Okay, so the 3 main reasons that building a lean physique is almost like a genie only type of wish. Hey, Aladdin, can I have that lamp? Thanks. Like that's pretty much how it is. Like, we need Aladdin in our lives. We need a different mindset, and to truly work on our mindset, which is a really difficult thing to do because it's not tangible. And our history kind of keeps us stuck because of the fear. So instead of just focusing on calories, which is all you really need to focus on when you're in weight loss, you need to be strength training 3 to 5 times a week. You can maintain muscle with 2 times a week, but to build 3 to 5 times a week, you can't just follow a generic plan. You can't just follow a training app, and you can't go changing it every 4 weeks just because it's a new month. And you can't go changing it just because you feel like you're not progressing on a movement, because it's usually in the first 2, 3, 4 weeks, you start seeing the most progress in your movements. And then after that 4th week, people usually get bored and stale, and then they want to look for new things because things aren't progressing like they used to progress. And that's how it should be. Because in the first 4 weeks, you're only just learning that movement. Your body's getting better at it, which is why you're able to get stronger and stronger at it and add the reps. But then after that bottle point, that's when you're forcing it. That's when you start to realize that you might slide back a little, you might go up a little, and it's just like this undulating thing. This is why you need a solid structure. You need that structure for progress, the structure for improvement, so you are getting better, stronger, and learning to push yourself closer to failure, to stimulate growth. You don't just want to be working hard and creating a lot of fatigue without creating the stimulus that you need for results, which you could be overdoing the stimulus you need for results and not getting the results because now it's not matching your recovery. And recovery isn't just rest days. It's how's your nutrition, it's how's your sleep, how's your stress management, how's your movement outside of the gym. Because movement outside of the gym is also a huge part of hormones recovery, because that gets the blood flowing. So we already covered high protein intake is really important for maintaining muscle and for building muscle. Proper support from carbs also for maintaining muscle in a deficit and building muscle outside of a deficit, and enough calories in both senses, because you don't want to starve fat loss. You want to fuel fat loss. That's the difference. Like there's a difference between weight loss and fat loss. In fat loss, to get lean, there's still so much strategy that you need for fat loss versus weight loss. Like weight loss is so easy. This other stuff, when you're actually prioritizing muscle and metabolism and hormones and all the good shit, that's when shit gets hard, and that's why you need a coach. The challenge of seeing progress is one of the biggest aspects of muscle building that gets people off the wagon, because it isn't as quick. And that's number 2 reason why building a lean physique is hard. The challenge of seeing progress. You won't see changes right away, and the nature of muscle growth can make it feel like nothing's happening. Unlike weight loss, where you can see the scale go down, or you can see yourself look visibly leaner, maybe see some veins popping, depending. It's just a hell of a lot more patience. And the 3rd reason why building muscle is difficult and getting lean is difficult is the cultural narratives that make it harder, or our attachment to our older clothes. It's almost like if we don't fit in our clothes, we are failing. It's a bad sign. In a world saturated with quick fix diets and these summer shred programs and bikini body advertising, it's so easy to just want to jump into a fat loss phase because it's summer, or because you feel fluffy one day. And the contrast of, oh my God, they're living their best life, and you attribute it to them being lean just because you feel so uncomfortable in your body right now. One of my sayings is you compare your worst emotional and feeling state to what you perceive to be someone's highlight reel. And that isn't fair. You're not even comparing a Granny Smith and a red apple, the green and the red apple. You're comparing 2 different fruits. Hell, you're comparing a freaking apple with a broccoli. One's a vegetable, one's a fruit. Building muscle, it's difficult because there's a difference. And then let's just say for now that we're going to go into a fat loss phase. Like if we built the muscle before doing the harder things, there is a difference between losing weight and losing body fat, like I said. And losing weight on the scale doesn't mean that you are maintaining muscle. Like what if you're losing muscle at the same time, which you will be losing muscle if you take a diet too long, or your protocol isn't smart. And there won't be a physique to reveal, like I said, if you truly haven't spent time building it. I'm going to put up a blog on this as well, because one of the biggest mistakes I made is I had the patience. I gave it like 2 years. I had the patience. But in those 2 years, I was too scared to eat more food. I just played it safe. I was eating a lot, like I wasn't in a deficit, but I wasn't eating enough to see the results that I wanted to see. So then when I did a fat loss phase, I looked the damn same. But before that period of time, I was doing mini bulks for like 4 to 6 months, thinking that I built enough because I like tried to force it faster. And then I'd force the fat loss faster. And then time after time, I'd just look worse and worse. And that is when I decided I'm going to have some patience and do a longer build. But then in that longer build, I never ate enough to get to where I wanted to be. And then that's when I actually took the leap and swapped my coach to one that cost 3 times as much as the one that I was with. But it was my coach, which is the people, my mentors that I'm still with, that completely changed the game for me. They shifted the way that I thought about things, and I had to do a lot of challenging myself. And the one thing that he said that stuck with me is stop focusing on dumb shit. every single time I complained with my body image concerns and all the scale things and everything that I texted him when I freaked out or just put into check-ins, stop focusing on dumb shit. He didn't even entertain it. Like, I wish I could be like that with my girls, but I feel bad. But the fact that he didn't entertain it and he kept focusing on the shit that I should be focusing on actually helped, because I fell in love with that shit. And then I started asking him, can I have more food? Please, I want more carbs. I want more carbs. I want to join the 400-gram club. I want to join the 500-gram club, when I was too scared to even eat 200 grams before. But that's the thing, like, building muscle isn't just a physical shift. It's a psychological one. Many people find it tough because the visible progress is so much slower. And that's when the doubts come in. Am I on the right path? I don't want to commit to this path for longer just in case it's taking me in the wrong direction and then I have to undo it all again. And then what if I end up in a worse place? And what if I actually put on more body fat? I don't want to risk that. So I'm just going to play it safe just in case. So I might just like tiptoe into it. Like, you're either leaving one foot out the door or you're not giving it your full 100% because you're doubting the process that you're on. So that's something to keep in mind. So I spoke about the building muscle part, and I spoke about the difference between weight loss and fat loss, but I think it's worth just revisiting the common pitfalls and the social pressures, because I honestly think that that's one of the biggest things that gets most of us undone. The pressure to shred, because one of the biggest challenges is the constant pressure to be lean, especially around certain times of the year. And it's usually from things that we're seeing online and comparisons. And when we feel uncomfortable within ourselves, or when life is chaotic around us, it's so much easier to just want to control our food and want to, like, it's like reactive dieting. Or I actually find most people are most body insecure and want to diet and want to fix themselves when they realize that they haven't been doing what they said they wanted to do. Or they've been a little loose with their food or out of control with their food, or they haven't been as consistent as they wanted to, or haven't been putting in true, honest effort into what they said they would be. So then we try to damage control or fix it by going to the other end of the pendulum and tightening it all up. But if you're working on building muscle, you have to be okay with not always seeing that instant visible change. You have to be okay with nothing changing, because that is a reality. You are never going to see things changing physically, because you see yourself every day. And it's not until you look back in time that it's like, holy freaking shit, my body has changed. And I say that from experience, because I don't see my body changing all that much. I don't even see it changing at all. That's why I'm not even bothered with progress photos, because it's like, I look the same. That's demoralizing. But I love taking screenshots of myself training. And it's one of my favorite things to get clients to do and to shove it into the Team Ruby group. You have to feel uncomfortable in that discomfort, the discomfort of not seeing much changing and of going against your old narrative and using different metrics, because old metrics won't open new doors and get you new results. And everything just gets that much more messy when PMS hits, or when there is that added social pressure. But anyway, I want to give you some action steps that you can take away from this podcast. So thank you for sticking through this podcast actually used to be called Ruby Rambles, because I just felt like I was rambling to myself, because that's kind of how it started. And it was mostly for clients. And now it gets to benefit all of you. And I don't know who else is listening out there, but I appreciate you for listening. And I would appreciate it so much if you shared any of these episodes to friends, any of them at all. I have a Google form link that I'm going to link below as well if you want to put any questions through for a question and answer episode, or for a topic for me to talk about. As a summary, that building muscle is way more challenging than weight loss, not just physically, but mentally. It's the consistency, it's the patience, it's the delayed gratification, and it's having a solid, structured approach, which weight loss isn't. Like, you can just go hard, whatever, until the wheels fall off, or until you get lost, or whatever else happens down the road. So yeah, I hope this helped. What I want you to do after listening to this is to make sure that you have a structured strength training plan, not a bro split, not a let's do chest, let's do back, let's do buys, let's do legs. Have at least 2 days focused on lower body and 2 days focused on upper body. If you're doing full body, that counts as 2 days, because I've got quite a few clients on 3 days of training a week. 3 full bodies, or upper, lower, and full body, whatever they decided with me. And then I programmed accordingly. So they're good ways to structure your training. On your lifts, log not only your numbers, but how things feel, if they're challenging, if you need to fix certain things, and always reflect on your progress week to week, which is what I like doing my check-ins. Like, are there any things that you would like to improve on the following week? which if you actually take the notes through your sessions, you can like look back on the week if you can't remember and be like, I know that I need to fix this. Or if there's anything that you need help with, ask someone. If you have a coach, ask the coach if they can keep an eye out on a certain thing the next following week to give you a little bit more feedback. The second thing is to double check your nutrition. Make sure you're eating enough protein. Make sure you're eating enough fruit and veg. And make sure you're fueling yourself with enough carbs, especially before you work out. And just enough carbs in general, because it's not just your pre-workout meal that matters. You need to be eating enough through the day to help with your recovery. If you're not recovered and not balancing recovery with your training, you're not going to grow the muscle that you want. And you need to shift your mindset to be okay with slow progress and to ask yourself if what you are doing is going to take you to where you want to be. Is what you're doing moving the boat? Just always ask yourself that. Is this going to move the boat? Or are you going to look back in 2 years' time and admit that you were playing it safe because of some sort of fear? So yeah, I spoke about pretty much why muscle building is harder. I spoke about the difference between weight loss and fat loss and why this shit actually takes a lot more strategy. And also the fact that it's not your fault. Society's focus on quick fixes and dieting for certain seasons, and there's certain slang like, what the freaking hell is winter arc? Like, goodness, do we need another term? Keep grinding, and please leave me a 5-star rating and reach out if this helped you, if there's any takeaways that you would like to share, or if there's something that you feel I should have went into a little bit deeper. I also want more feedback on these because I want to make them serve you, and I'm trying not to make them longer than 20 minutes. Love you all, and thanks for tuning in.